I tell you what, and we can look at this from a number of different ways. I slept on it, and that was a big win for the Giants last night, I thought. Lovely Christy was over for dinner, and the comeback happens, and I go, this is big. And she goes, no, it's not. There's like 100 more games after this. And I go, no, this is big for some different reasons, right? The Diamondbacks catch you if you lose. I think that the trade deadline had the Giants fan base in a negative frame of mind already. You fall behind when one of your two starters, it was one of the two starter nights for the Giants, all of those things. That was a really, really big victory last night, and now it serves as the backdrop to the larger picture. The Giants didn't do anything at the deadline, and Dibs has slept on it because I wanted him to do something, but I slept on it, and I thought about it, and I listened to what everybody had to say about it. The two starters I would have wanted both apparently invoked their no-trade clause to come out west, so the Dodgers and Giants and Padres were all non-starters, pun intended. And so I thought about it, and I went, you know what? I think it would have been good for the guys to get someone because it sends a good message.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I just thought there wasn't any good players available, honestly. Like, I look around at all of what all of these teams did, and you mentioned yesterday the Angels, maybe the Rangers to a degree. I don't know that anybody got an earth-shattering, we got better thing over the last 3 days.
Not earth-shattering, but you're looking at upgrades, and especially when you look at some of the cost for these players who I think would have been upgrades, the cost wasn't that steep. For DeYoung, for example, he got a prospect that was not even in the top 20, and Jordan Montgomery, I don't think there was that big of a haul in order to acquire him. Mark Canha was traded earlier in the deadline period, a player the Giants could have acquired without really giving up a top 5 prospect. So I thought there were areas in which they could have improved without having to expend that much in terms of prospect capital. But then they go out and they did what they did last night, and it definitely cleanses the palate. Like that little piece of ginger you get with your sushi order, it's a palate cleanser because on this day, this morning, it doesn't feel like the Giants missed out on anything.
Can I respond to some of what you just laid out there, though?
Of course you can.
Are those guys going to make the Giants better? Paul DeYoung, 233 hitter. Tyro Estrada's coming back tomorrow.
Tyro has been, he's been either okay or injured for the past 3 months. He had a monster April.
Yeah.
He had a pretty good May, and then he started to slump a little bit, and then he got hurt.
But better than Paul DeYoung.
Not as much power as Paul DeYoung. Only 2 Giants have more home runs than Paul.
Yeah, Paul's played.
He's got 13 home runs.
Right, but Tyro, if had not missed 6 weeks, would too. He's on that kind of a track, is what I'm saying. Plus, he's already on the team. So, you know what I'm getting at there. Like, is that an upgrade? Plus, there's such a thirst for Schmidt and Luciano to be a part of this picture as well. By the way, don't freak out about Luciano getting sent down. I know there's a bad look there. A.J. Pollock for Luciano, what the hell are you doing?
Well, especially on the heels of Farhan saying, yeah, we want to go forward with the young guys and see what we can do, and then the young guy gets sent.
He's going to be right back. He's playing second base in Sacramento right now, literally as we speak, and he rocked a base hit in his first at-bat. They want him to be able to play second base because they want those guys, Schmidt and Luciano, to be able to back up at both positions. They don't want him to sit and watch baseball. Yeah. They don't want Luciano in the dugout while Crawford and Estrada and whoever else is playing.
I wonder why they didn't have him play second base at times all year. This is the first time he's ever played second base as a professional.
Right.
So
not his position, yeah.
Well, if you want it to be his position, why not have him try it as a position in the past couple of years? That, to me, feels a little bit like mismanagement.
I don't know.
Gross mismanagement.
No, but I think you're asking them to see a crystal ball. 2 months ago, why would you be thinking we're going to need him to play second base? You don't know that Tyro is going to get hurt.
The same reason why you had Casey Schmidt play shortstop.
Well, but Casey's a completely different defensive player than Marco Luciano.
Better defensive player.
And Casey had played shortstop before.
Right.
Casey started playing second base also, but he's someone who can, this is an elite defender. Luciano's not that. So all I'm saying is I'm not going to get hot and bothered about that because he's coming right back. You're going to see Luciano real soon. So he didn't play last night. They want him to get his ABs. They want to take some reps at second base. He'll do that, and he's going to be he'll be right back. So I guess that circles back to what I'm bringing up. Like Paul DeJong, you want him in the mix with Luciano Schmidt blocking them. Estrada and Crawford are going to be your starters, like it or not. So you're going to give up even if it's your 18th prospect.
Yeah.
For a guy to come do what? Who's hitting 230?
Hit homers.
He's hitting 230.
But he's got more homers than anybody on your team outside of two guys.
That's a stat.
And I know, but it's a team that doesn't hit home runs. And
is it?
Well, they haven't of late. In July, they were dreadful. So
where do the Giants rank in terms of home runs this year in the National League?
In the National League, they're probably 6th, I would guess. They're probably about 11th in baseball. And if you want to talk about just July numbers, we know that they were probably the worst hitting team in all of baseball in July.
Yeah, San Francisco Giants are right in the middle of the pack of all of the major leagues. They are 16th in home runs in the entire majors.
Yeah, that's not
7th
good.
in the National League.
7th in the National
I guessed
League.
it was 6th.
Yeah.
I'll take a ding for that.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, but you take a ding for it, except for your point was kind of that they don't hit home runs.
They're middle of the pack. This is a team that's been a power machine ever since Kapler and Farhan took over. They had the most homers in the National League a couple of years ago.
I mean, the teams who, outside of the Braves and Dodgers, who we all agree are the best two rosters in the National League, outside of that, in the National League, the other teams that are ahead of them in home runs, Cubs, Mets, Padres, Cardinals, dreadful. The Cubs are the only team that has worked their way into a winning record. There's a stat circulating on the internet today that I've been trying to make this point for years. Success in baseball, similar to football, we freak out about the quarterbacks and the receivers and the linebackers, but you're going to win if you've got a good offensive line. It's the same thing in baseball. We need a starter. We need a bopper batting third. You need a bullpen. The San Francisco Giants, since May 1st, have lapped the field in terms of their bullpen. So you want to know why they win so many one-run games and the Padres lose so many one-run games? Because the Padres got boppers. They got a lineup that will absolutely make you salivate, but they can't win a 4-3 ball game because the bullpen sucks. The Giants is good, and that's why when we look at their roster and go, I don't know how they're winning, that's how.
Speaking of the Giants bullpen, their closer joins us today.
That's a great point.
Thank you.
Sean Manaea.
Hello.
First career save, elite hair picture.
Incredible.
Joins us in 15 minutes.
The closing Samoan is...
That almost works.
I know.
It almost works.
I had a couple of better ones. My line about Patrick Bailey, if he was on SFPD or OPD, smashing all the caught stealings. Can you imagine how crime would go down? And actually somebody from SFPD said, get him an application. We're hiring. I was like, okay.
I love it. He apparently, I guess he went around the clubhouse last night getting the box score signed. Like, this was a big deal to him last night. It's his first career save.
Yeah.
Sean Manaea.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Patrick Bailey, who...
Well, no, that was just...
From a box score standpoint...
Bailey's a stud.
Well,
he's a complete stud.
How many games have the Giants had in which they had 3 assists from their catchers, and none of them were on bunt coverage or dropped third strikes? If you drop a third strike and the out's recorded at first, I guess the catcher does get the assist in that case.
Yep.
This was 3 assists by catchers on base running, not fielded balls. That's crazy.
You want another quirky stat of the day?
Is this from StatCast, the StatCast era?
No, this is just from the World Wide Web.
Okay.
It's from the internet.
I love it.
So it must be true. Patrick Bailey in Major League Baseball ranks first amongst all catchers in defensive runs saved.
Man.
However, he ranks 29th in innings caught.
Yeah.
He has achieved
29th. Jeez.
He has achieved that stat without playing nearly as much as all the other catchers.
He's
incredible.
incredible. He's
absolutely incredible.
And I mentioned in the crossover Dikembe Mutombo, and that's to me what this feels like in terms of the absolute lack of respect. And in the NBA, guard after guard, forward after forward would drive in on Mutombo, knowing he's in there thinking, I'm going to be the one to get him. and Mutombo with the long arms and the great timing and the no. And that's where we are with Patrick Bailey. These base stealers, these would-be base stealers, elite base stealers are all thinking, I got him. He's not going to throw me out. And Mark, it's not only the quick release and it's not only the velocity of the throw, but the fact that every throw hits the corner of the base.
Oh, my God.
That back kick to first.
Sometimes he hits the face of the other player trying to steal the bag.
The one last night, the walk-off back pick.
Yeah.
Lamont Wade realizes he needs to cover the base. He runs over, puts the glove down, and the ball is just whap. It's just right there.
Oh, my gosh.
And Sable's throw was amazing also.
Yeah, not a bad catcher either.
No, and then
not
Bailey. And you saw, I don't know if you saw Sable in the post game on NBC Sports Bay Area, but he said he basically asks Bailey for advice and they talk about it and he's like picking Bailey's brain.
Rookie to rookie.
Rook to rook, exactly.
Yeah.
Learning
Incredible.
as much as he can.
So, okay. You trust Farhan or not?
I trust Farhan, yeah.
Okay,
I'm disappointed in Farhan.
Why?
Because they should have added. And I don't want to get bogged down in trade deadline back and forth. I've mentioned 3 players that I think they could have gotten for cheap that I think would have been upgrades. They didn't do that, and they're 1-0 since Farhan sat on his hands. So do I believe in Farhan?
Yeah.
How can you not? They're 10 games above 500, and they won 107 games a couple years ago, and they do it with a roster of not no names because we know all these guys, but they don't have any superstars.
No, it doesn't jump out at you
and
at
they
all.
only have a couple of, you would call them stars, and yet somehow he and Gabe Kapler, working in concert with the other 29 coaches, they found a way to make this formula work.
It's another day where a Fire Farhan hashtag made the rounds throughout, and I get this question all the time. I'm very aware of the lane that I have created. I get the question all the time. Mark, why? Why do you trust this guy so much? Thank you, Nancy. Why do you trust him so much? And I think it's an interesting day to have this conversation. 888-957-9570. Do you trust Farhan Zaidi to continue running this club? If you don't, why not? If you do, why? I unequivocally, unsurprisingly, and firmly do. Let me give you 3 things that the Giants have now in these 4+ years that they did not have in the 4+ years running up to his hiring, okay? Number 1, a winning record. Y'all forget what the Giants were doing when they hired him.
In, 16, 17,
10,
18,
12,
and
14,
19?
10, 12, 14. How about 15, 16, 17, and 18?
16, they were a playoff team.
16, they were a playoff team. However, they still managed to be so bad in the other 3 years that they amassed a losing record in that window.
Hurt my legacy.
I'm doing good now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. But in these 4.5 years now, Farhan plus Gabe, obviously there was one Farhan and I'm on my way out year, and that's fine. But then Farhan and Gabe, this regime under Farhan, winning record. Second thing they have that they could not do in the 4 years leading up to him, an NL West Division championship. Nothing to sneeze at with the presence of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And here's the most important thing that they have now that they did not have then, and it is a farm system. They have a farm system. And in fact, they've got players that you don't want traded. In fact, most of them are now on the roster. His second number 1 overall draft pick is the guy that we are sitting here fawning over. His name is Patrick Bailey. He has been a franchise changer since he came up. Casey Schmidt, by the way, was in the exact same draft for those of you who are fans of him. So these are all things on his record. Now, you can scream back, well, about DeSclafani and Kevin Gausman, and just like any regime, mistakes are made. Nobody's here to call anybody perfect because we can go back to your perfect Brian Sabian, and we can point out Zach Wheeler, and we can point out Brian Reynolds and do all of that over and over again if you want. Everybody, Shanahan, Belichick, Farhan, Sabian,
Myers,
they all mess up.
Yeah.
They all mess up.
You gotta get all the teams in there.
Thank you. But those are things that the Giants franchise has now that they did not have before. and the wins are much more than the losses, both on the field and in the trade and transaction market. So that is why I trust Farhan Zaidi. And usually when they do something that'll frustrate you, I do think if you listen to the explanation, you go, oh, okay. If you want to be calm about it.
I understand what he's saying. It doesn't mean I have to agree with it.
Of course you don't have to agree with it. But when it comes to the deadline and the comment he did make yesterday, if you wanted us to give 2 prospects for a 5th starter, we could have. We chose
he
not
said
to
half
do that.
my farm.
Yeah. This deadline stunk. Nobody good was available. And in fact, most of the good players who were quote-unquote available did not get moved. Verlander and Scherzer in their 40s with no trade clauses were non-starters. Erod invoked a no-trade clause and never got moved. Who else did you want? And you're welcome to have the answer, Paul DeYoung. Does nothing for me.
Yeah, Mark Canha is a player.
Does nothing for me.
1.4 WAR. He immediately is a better player than half your hitters.
Then who? Mark Canha he's a utility guy, can do infield, outfield.
Yeah.
So who's the guy whose at bats you're taking away?
Well, for right now,
Austin Slater, who's hitting 380.
Diaz, Crawford with a homer last night.
That's a lefty, and Diaz is here for a hot second because they're facing 2 riders till Tyro gets back.
Right, but you're talking about a utility guy who could play a bunch of different spots for a team that has a bunch of different openings because you have so many guys who are constantly hurt.
Sounds to me like you want him to replace Wilmer Flores or Austin Slater.
I don't believe I named either one of those guys.
Are the guys
or Lamont Wade Jr.
But they're playing the right-handed utility man role.
Right.
And they're doing an unbelievable job of it. Like, at the end, I get that some people don't like the Giants' way, but can we all agree they ain't moving off of it? One of the things I love about them is this is our way,
right,
and we're sticking to it because we believe it works. And they've kind of been right.
Well, then we need to not entertain any more conversations about Shohei Ohtani.
Why is that?
Because this is this is the Giants' way, and the Giants' way so far has not been to sign. Well, they haven't signed anybody.
But that's playing the results game.
Well,
they have offered.
That's all you can look at. The results game.
No, it isn't.
Absolutely.
We ignore the process. There are certain sports teams who have decided to use it as their motto. Like, process is absolutely a part of this. They have offered north of $300 million.
Yeah, and they've not gotten any of them.
Great. So you can criticize them for that, but don't say it's not part of their process.
Well, it's not a part of their results then. So the results is ultimately all that matters because Farhan said we're going to be aggressive at the trade deadline, and then they were not aggressive at the trade deadline. And then just yesterday he said we're going to go forward with the young players we have. And then he took one of the young players and he sent him down. Now, yeah, he might come back in a day or 3 days or 2 weeks or who knows. But what Farhan said is not what Farhan did in terms of being aggressive at the trade deadline. They were not aggressive at the trade deadline.
I'm not sure actually you can say that.
Were they aggressive at the trade deadline?
That's a concept. It's not, again, it's a process. Right. It's not a result. To say we're going to be aggressive is to get into every conversation. If the other team goes, we'd like your top 3 prospects for this rental, I'm not going to say, well, Farhan, you said you'd be aggressive, so you better do the deal. It's a bad deal. So you're
making a leap in terms of what was potentially offered, and you don't know that.
I don't know, but I know it was a seller's market. I know it was a seller's market.
Right. And it was a market where a lot of teams did a lot of things and he did nothing.
Nobody outside of the Rangers was aggressive. Nobody. No, and
even the Padres were aggressive.
Oh. Who do the Padres get?
They got about 7 players.
Name them.
I'd have to look it up, Mark.
Exactly. There wasn't anybody good.
Sure.
There wasn't.
Right. You wanted Mark Canha.
I didn't.
That's what you said.
No, I thought that was someone that sounded like someone they'd get. I don't care if they get Mark Canha. Like, is that a difference maker?
No, but it's a player that you said, he was a guy that I had my eye on, or somebody that you thought they might want, and then
they might get. Yeah,
and then they didn't get him. Yeah. And so now you didn't want Mark Canha anymore.
I didn't say I wanted him. I said I thought that they might want him. Nobody was good. Nobody good was available.